What's up everybody, this is Danny and today I'm in New York City and I'm going to be testing out the Galaxy Z Fold 3 versus the new Galaxy Z Fold 4. So now we have a new camera system on the Z Fold 4, so I want to see if it's worth upgrading to and is this the foldable that we've been waiting for. So let's test these in all conditions and let's see which one comes out on top. Let's do it. This comparison was exciting for me because this is the strongest camera system ever on a foldable from Samsung, so I wanted to find out if this was a major step up or not. The older Z Fold 3 is on the left and the new Z Fold 4 is on the right, and after looking at a ton of pictures side by side, I wanted to show you some of the differences that I noticed, and make sure you watch the entire video to really see the full scope of improvements, especially at night. If you are going to upgrade to the Galaxy Z Fold 4, make sure you take advantage of Samsung's crazy trade-in and incentives. I'll leave that link down below to make it easy if that makes sense for you. The samples are going to be mixed from New York City and home. I was only in NYC for a short period of time with Motorola to see the new Edge and with MediaTek for their new processor platforms. And right after that, the next day, I took about an hour train ride into New Jersey for an exciting purchase. I've been looking for a Hyundai Ioniq 5 Limited for a while now and found one here, so I picked it up. Really excited to share with you my experience so far with it. But let's not get sidetracked and jump right back into it. Of course, daytime pictures are pretty great from any mid-tier and up smartphone these days, so it's no different here. On some of these shots, you won't be able to see a huge difference, but when comparing them side by side, the first thing that I notice are the color differences. It definitely goes back and forth, but generally the Fold 4 is showing more contrast with a turn towards natural colors. See here on the tree, the highlights are brighter on the Fold 3, so there is more vibrance there where the trees are more natural on the Fold 4. This one of the same scene shows the difference a little better. White balance is also different here. HDR is done better on the Fold 4, looking at this left upper corner, and look at the difference here in the trees. I took some shots while I was at the Yankees game against Tampa, and you can see the same traits here. The Fold 3 with that extra vibrance, so I can see some people liking this better. This will definitely be personal preference, but the Fold 4 generally produces an overall darker looking but more balanced image. This one shot at sunset shows a clear difference in the approach with processing. The Fold 4 shows less saturation with more accurate colors. I'm also seeing a better controlling of highlights and more accurate white balance in this scenario, as you can see with my wife's hair. I did mention this earlier, but I'm seeing an improvement in overall HDR processing. Look up here in the left upper corner on this ultra wide shot. It almost looks like the Fold 3 just didn't activate HDR, and normally I would just call that a one-off, but I'm noticing this throughout many of the pictures and I'll point them out as this comparison continues. But overall, I'm seeing a lot of subtle differences that do turn this camera into a better experience overall. Again, noting the slight move towards natural colors is a good thing for me in my opinion, but I'm also seeing a better natural depth of field as well, and you can see from the blurring of the background here without any special modes. Another HDR mishap here on the Fold 3, but you can see this slight natural bokeh here is nice on the new Z Fold 4. I'm also seeing a difference in detail and textures from the improvements from the ISP from the newer Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1 on the Z Fold 4. Look at this flower here, it almost looks like there's a skin smoothing effect on the Fold 3, where the detail difference is pretty substantial here on the Z Fold 4, but there is less fringing on the Fold 3, so keep that in mind. Here's another one where just the entire image just looks slightly crisper, so I'm glad to see the improvement over the last generation, but I will say just like any other camera comparison, it does go back and forth. Like here, the Fold 4 is over brightening, and it does exactly the opposite of what I've been seeing so far, so consistency can be improved. Again, this is very early for the Fold 4, so I'm sure things will get better with software updates. As you can see in some of these shots, the Z Fold 3 does a better job with some shots, but I'm seeing consistently better images coming from the Z Fold 4, so I'm glad that I can report this. I mean, some shots just look almost identical, so you won't get a better shot every time during the day, but for the most part, you will see an improvement. Two other things worth noting is that the Fold 4 does have a 3x telephoto over the 2x telephoto, so you'll be able to get a little closer to the field if you are at a game. Here is the full gamut. This is the main, and then here is the 2x versus the 3x. It's so much more flexible in my opinion. This extra reach gives you a much better 10x digital zoom. Look at how much better the Fold 4's image looks, and you also have the ability to go to 30x where you cannot do this on the Fold 3. That 3x zoom also gives the Fold 4 the ability to do 3x portrait mode shots, which I think is a fantastic focal length. It's my favorite focal length to shoot when taking family photos. It looks so good and it gives you that picture that might make someone question if this was shot on a phone or not. Without portrait mode, the 3x gives you a little bit more background separation, which is nice, but that 3x portrait mode is where it's at. Besides the fact it does brighten the skin a little too hard on Enabong here, so some software updates would be appreciated to bring the skin tone back from what I'm seeing on the Fold 3. I did take a lot of portrait shots and I did notice an improvement with the focusing on the Fold 4. The Fold 3 totally missed this portrait shot because of that delay on the shutter, so Samsung owners know this happens sometimes. It happened again here when taking a picture of Daniel Sin, where the Fold 4 nailed it on the first try. Of course, you can just tap to focus and you'll get much better results, and I know that, but I just want to snap a shot the first time and I expect it to work. Look here on Josh Vergara's face on the Fold 3. It almost looks out of focus, it's a little soft. Then I tap to focus and look at how much sharper it is, so I'm glad to see the focusing improvements here on the Fold 4. With the new main sensor on the Fold 4, you also have the ability to shoot 50 megapixel stills, and there are some downsides. Sometimes you do lose some of the dynamic range, so be aware of that when using this mode, and it isn't great for closer up shots like of this flower. You can see that the 12 megapixel bin shot has more detail and better dynamic range, so I found that it has the best results with landscape shots like this one. Without really inspecting the shot, they do look similar, but when you punch in heavily, look at the detail on the bricks on the building. There's so much more detail that's retained. So if you want the most detail, the Fold 4's 50 megapixel mode will work great during the day. Also with the Z Fold 4, if you're a fan of 8K video, you'd have that ability now. It is 8K 24 frames per second, so that's why it looks choppier than the 4K 30 frames per second on the Fold 3. But when cropping into the video, you can see how much more detail that you can pick up with the 8K video. So if you have the space, you can use this if you like. The difference is pretty heavy when looking at it like this. I am seeing an improvement to 4K video as well on the Z Fold 4 over the Z Fold 3. The detail on this water is pretty noticeable with heavier contrast, so let me know which one that you think looks better. Again, heavier contrast on the Z Fold 4. This is a common trait that you've been seeing even with the photos, so if you like brighter video, you might side with the Z Fold 3. Now here's an example of the 4K video with the zoom, 2x with the Fold 3 and 3x with the Fold 4. While the video is slightly darker on the Fold 4, it looks really crisp. Look at this tree here. Daytime video stabilization looks pretty similar, so let me know if you see any big differences here. These are both just handheld, walking at a medium pace, so let me know which one did better in the comment section below. The good news is when the light starts getting lower, I am seeing an improvement to the cameras on the Z Fold 4. Look at the detail on that watermelon in this dark restaurant. While they both don't have macro modes at all and close-up shots don't look fantastic, look at the difference in these buns. Texture and detail is better on the 4. Here is a neon sign picture test. While the final look might be personal preference, look at the wood texture being picked up by the Fold 4. It is so much sharper. Here is a nighttime cityscape shot, and you can see that the Fold 4 is sharper all around. Here is a better look at that detail difference. And what is nice on top of that, when you punch it even further, you can see that the noise is so much better controlled on the Z Fold 4, so this looks like an all-around improvement to nighttime photography. The more shots that I took, the more that I saw that the improvements are basically in every picture. Take a look at the street lines here. In this shot, you can see that the man crossing the street is still blurry, but better on the new phone. But look at this brick detail on the building. This is not even fair. This is a big noticeable improvement. So if you're like me and take a lot of nighttime photography, this is a major win, especially when you add night mode. Punch into this very dark section and look at the building back here. You can see way more detail on the Z Fold 4. And when you look at the scaffolding, it's so much clearer on the Z Fold 4. When I got back home, we went for a quick dinner at Caribbean Beach at Disney, and that gave me an opportunity to shoot more low light images. The night mode does look a little more natural on the Z Fold 4 under darker conditions, so that will be personal preference. The Fold 3 isn't doing too bad at all in this scenario, but again producing the brighter sky and overall picture. But here is a good example of the Fold 3 compensating for that older sensor, picking up a lot of green throughout the image, and this light flare looks terrible, where the Z Fold 4, it looks much better. Look at this family photo without night mode, just single snap. It's so much cleaner and sharper on the Z Fold 4. The Fold 3 looks dull in comparison, especially on the faces. Now here is that same shot in night mode, and the Fold 3 steps it up big time, so you'll have to use night mode with the Fold 3, which is okay, but you can see the differences in the skin processing here on the Z Fold 4. This is where I think the night mode needs work. Look at this night portrait mode shot of me. I look like I stayed at the beach for about 12 hours straight with no sun cover, so I hope that they can fix this with some software updates down the road. But it doesn't happen all the time. This one, the Fold 4 did a great job, so if you're a night shooter, this is totally worth the upgrade. Nighttime video is also a big improvement for the Galaxy Z Fold 4. The detail and noise reduction is much better on the new phone with the newer sensor and processing power. The brighter lights are handled better with better clarity and contrast levels, so I think this is great. The one thing that I couldn't figure out is why the stabilization on the Galaxy Z Fold 3 was so bad at night. I don't ever remember it being this bad, but wow, what a difference. I am so glad that I had multiple samples just to make sure. These are just handheld and the video stabilization is on, I promise. I checked and double checked, and this did not look like this while I was recording, so it could be a bug. And even when I got home, I did it again, walking a little slower, and while it wasn't as drastic as the walking footage in NYC, you can see that the Z Fold 3 doesn't handle the footage as well as the Z Fold 4, so night video is a landslide win for the new phone, including portrait mode video. Look at how much sharper the separation is. This is showing the improvement in the Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1 ISP portrait video capabilities. This is a big leap from the last gen ISP. I know people will get very angry if I don't cover the front-facing camera, and the cover screen front-facing camera is the same, so I wouldn't expect any huge improvements, but there are differences in processing. As usual, the under-display front-facing camera is terrible for selfies, so only use this for video calls. Even though it is the same camera, the processing again and ISP make a difference. Look at the noise on the Z Fold 3 without night mode. The Fold 4 looks so much better all around. There is night portrait mode for the front-facing camera, and while the 3 doesn't look terrible, the 4 does look better, so that is good news that you will get some improvements even on the front-facing camera side. So this is a full-on improvement to almost every aspect of the camera system. They might be minor, but they all add up to be a great upgrade. So if I had to call it on this one, if you're only looking to upgrade for the camera, I think this is worth it, especially at night. The daytime, again, I don't know if that's a reason to upgrade, but it does have extra reach with 3x, 50 megapixel captures, 8K video now on board, and with the nighttime improvements in both photos and video, I think that this camera is noticeably better. But if you are happy with your Z Fold 3, keep it, because of course the device is just more than the camera system itself. So I hope that this helped you make a decision to either help you save or spend money. Let me know what you did in the comment section below. Thank you for watching. Hit that like button if this helped you. Subscribe for a lot more comparisons, especially the next one with the Galaxy S22 Ultra. That's going to be a good one, and I will see you in the next one.